Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody joining us. Thanks for joining us now. Our first launch, our first AMA after launch. Exciting. It's been an exciting few weeks for us. We are Kula, the three co-founders of Kula. And if you're not sure what Kula is, boy, catch up. No, we are an impact investment vehicle. We Our mission really is to bring real world value to crypto, transparency to investors, and positive impact to communities all over the world. So there's a lot of information online on our website. If you want to go read our white paper, we have a robust constitution if you really want to nerd out about who we are and what we do. But please listen to our AMA, do your due diligence as far as investment goes, and really learn about Kula. As we build this, we're constantly learning about the scope and the possibilities of this project. And so the bigger community we have, the better it's going to be for everybody. So thanks again for joining us on this AMA. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and, as this is an AMA, and ask me anything, or in this case, ask us anything. Go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A box so we get that queue going. So we've got a list of questions to answer at the end of this. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Sam. Sam, if you want to talk about what you've been doing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Micah. Good to be here with everybody. So apparently, the real work for Kula starts after launch. That's something we're learning. So for the immediate past few days, our Chief Compliance Officer Paul Jackson and I were in Token 2049 Dubai. It's such a wonderful time, to spend with people that we've seen for the past few years, actually. Some of them, like just small circle, right? The blockchain art, the exchanges, market makers. So showing up there's like a big party that just to get to, say hi. And then get to know quite a few brand new participants who are just interested in the crypto industry. Well, I was one of those people got affected by the Newark airport. um, Fiasco, I was gonna say, but issues. So after a huge delay, but still able to show up there. And the first event was from invitation from Kraken, and it was really cool being out there. They put this whole like restaurant in the middle of like Dubai downtown. It was a really awesome place. And wonderful to meet a few folks. Walking out, saw a gentleman and started chatting about possibility with rare earth metal, and turned out, guess what? Kula has all these access to a lot of places. So that became an interesting conversation. But I do want to make a mention real quick here is from that conversation, turned out somebody was scammed right in the middle of our conversation. So once again, reminder, be careful. Don't get scammed. Even for Kula, right? Make sure it's from official channel and don't just, break protocol or whatever it is that you guys, do to protect yourselves. Do not deviate from those practices, and really watch out for scammers. But after the few days, Token, it's exhaustive, but I think it's also like just refreshing just to know where the industry is going, moving towards real world asset-backed projects, practices. The whole industry is getting to be more legalized, regulated, and we're just very fortunate that we are probably a couple years ahead of the schedule, and we have everything that the world is looking for to back these real world asset-backed tokens. So very fortunate to be in the space early. That's a quick update from me. Let's move on to Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. It's really cool to be with you guys again on this AMA after we have launched. And I think just the excitement of this last week being out and about with colleagues and people in the industry that we've been meeting with over the last 2 or 3 years really, and just the qualitative difference it is to have conversations about a launched project and not an aspirational idea has been just evident in the conversations that we've had. So Mike and I were able to be part of what's called the Digital Commonwealth event in London, which we've actually been sponsoring for about a year now. It's a gathering of industry regulators, industry leaders, and Web3 projects that are really building with strong utility, coming together every several months to just discuss the ongoing changes in the environment and forward-looking kind of conversations. But again, the value of that time is really in the conversations that happen around the main event. And so we had a really wonderful day. We were able to make some really significant connections, which will be leading towards some more headlines, hopefully here in the next month or two, which we'll be excited to share when the time comes. In the evening, we were also then part of the awards gala, which this event has been planning for about 6 months. We put in 2 applications. We were sadly unfortunate to not win either, but we were bettered by really strong projects that have been around and actually live and operational for a year or two already. So pitch to the post, but again, we were still encouraged early days because I think within the next 12 months, not just for this one event, it's for the optics, but for this one event, we're really going to be across the board a lot more evident and seen now in what we're trying to achieve. So that was really, really strong. As a result of that, I was able to go back down to Westminster to the Houses of the House of Commons, which is the British seat of government, for meetings on the Westminster Africa Business Group, through connections that we've made last Monday. And we went specifically because the High Commissioner for Zambia was speaking that day, and we got to meet with her and her team, and also make some other broader connections for business opportunities there in both in Zambia and just the overarching kind of political permission and space, but also for other countries in the future. It's just us working at the political cover and space that we require when we're working in various different countries. So it's probably a space that we'll just keep investing in, and actually relatively a very, very cheap way of building relationships in many ways, but on a strong footing. So that was really, really, really fantastic. And again, I think I want to kind of reiterate this point, the overwhelming difference it is to be able to talk about our projects and what we can build on now, as opposed to we're going to launch a token one day and we're trying to get towards that milestone. Now that's passed, we can build, and that's really exciting because all of the ideas and the thinking and the conversations of 3 or 4 years now are actually executable, and we're really excited to keep moving things forward and grow Kula. So as Sam said, the real work of Kula now begins, but we can really step into it with a growing and great team. And then Mike has got some updates towards the end as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As Sam said, once we launched, that was the beginning of a lot of work to be done. As we worked so hard to get to launch, and now that we've launched and frankly done quite well with launch, now we look to build and scale. And with launch, obviously becomes a legitimacy to the project you've built. People are seeing that with our chart. People are seeing that with even the volume we've created in the low volume market. And so then we get all kinds of requests. We are sorting through institutional investors that are vying for OTC opportunities. So we're KYCing them. We're going through vetting processes to onboard institutional investors. We are continuing to speak with more exchanges. While some exchanges are approaching us, we're approaching other exchanges and continuing further conversations that we've had ongoing up to now. Also, we are basically interacting with possible regional DAO opportunities. Regional DAO projects are applying on our website, and we are now continuing conversations that we honestly had to put off 6 to 8 months ago, just because we were gearing up for launch. So we are kind of going back to those conversations and re-engaging those projects. We are now sorting through vetting new projects that are applying on our website. It is a lot of work. So course, with that being said, the company needs to scale. Step one in that is really forming our annual operational budget, and that will be coming up here over the next few weeks as we finalize, hey, what is Kula's operational costs and what's it going to cost us to run this company? But then that's also going to allow us to dream as far as how many people do we onboard, what positions, and exactly the timing for those positions is this company going to need. So that's really kind of in the background. A lot of what our board and executives are working on for the next coming weeks is just working on scaling this company and preparing us for the amount of work that we have ahead of us. So we've got upcoming projects and travel, where many of us are heading to Kenya on let's see, at the end of this month, I guess, here in just a couple weeks. My goodness. We are at Consensus next week. Sam and I and a group of our ambassadors, the Kula ambassadors. You're going to see these people around at many conventions, at least some of the bigger conventions around the world. We're building an ambassador guild, people that can speak on our behalf, that can represent our company, that can explain Kula to kindergartners or all the way up to technically proficient experts. But this ambassador guild will be running booths. They'll be engaging with networking opportunities, and in some cases, they'll be doing the keynotes for us. So at Consensus, you'll see kind of the first example of what our traveling group looks like to scale. And then we go to Kenya at the end of the month. On the back end of that, most likely we are going to Ghana. And all of this in Kenya and Ghana will be with His Excellency Tamrat Adamosu, that has already opened up doors for us and introducing us to new people, new government officials, and new countries. So a lot of moving parts really coming up in these next few months, and honestly the next few years. So bear with us as we build, as we scale, and really learn how to put this Kula project in action in its fullest capability. So with that, gents, anything else before we move to questions? Boy, that was a quick update. 15 minutes. And really the biggest news is we launched, right? And we launched well. So with that, let's go ahead and open up the questions. Looks like we've got a few right off the bat here.
I can take the first one if you guys want.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Heard that you're talking to Kraken. Yes, we are. We are talking to more than Kraken, many others, tier 1, tier 2s. Is there a timeline process for being listed on additional exchanges? So some of these things are out of our control. We could apply to a bunch of them, right? With updates and everything, but a lot of times it's up to the exchanges to determine a workable timeline. Part of it is just they're faced with many projects trying to list. Also, there is a huge in-depth due diligence process need to take place before they can list projects. Thankfully, though, we have all the necessary legal documents, incorporation things, community that's needed, and the real asset on the ground. So we're actually looking forward to begin the process. So part of the reason we're talking to all these exchanges is not like we just want to be listed on as many exchanges as possible. Matter of fact, our strategy is quite the opposite. We want to focus on particular selective set of exchanges, which will actually get to the second question. Can investors in the U.S. purchase the tokens? The reason we're chasing after Kraken and a few others is the ability to legally open up the investment opportunity to U.S. investors. So Kraken will be one of them. Like right now, there are limited options for U.S. investors. So that's why we're doing all this work. But it's looking very positive.
I'm gonna
Good.
throw this one to you, Micah, because I think you're the best one to answer it on here. So can you talk about the price action of our chart and and the significance of how things are playing out?
Sure. Yeah. The price action of the chart is actually quite remarkable. Um, we have created levels of support that are strong. Again, and all of this is in a low volume market, but yet Kula has established levels of support that is quite remarkable in this launch. And now, just recently, we've established we've set up a new level of support at our previous all-time high, which again, if you zoom out from the launch day till today, it's a really healthy looking chart. So we like seeing that stability. We like seeing the fact that people are buying and holding because they see the potential in this project. And while there's been plenty of people taking profits since launch day, and that's great. That's just wise investment. But our chart really is holding steady. So love it. We've got people watching it and even internally sharing videos about the chart and what it means, and here's our levels of support and levels of resistance. So we love it. We are excited about our chart. Our market makers are well impressed with how launch went, and we have far exceeded their expectations as far as daily volume goes and even market action. So that's been great to have those meetings with our market makers, and we're in constant communication with them. And it really is just we exceeded their expectations. So obviously it speaks to what the project is, but it also speaks to our community and all the people that have been following us for years, that have jumped in since day one, supported us, bought the token, and holding the token. So now I know this is also kind of goes with a couple other questions here that we're going to touch on. Well, how many tokens and how much total money have you raised? And does this compare to your expectations at this point in time? Do we still see accomplishing our goal of raising $30 to $40 million? These questions are going to be answered on a semi-annual basis out with company reports. So we're going to do official statements, basically profit and loss statements, but then also just semi-annually investor updates. So the specific answers to these questions are going to go out officially in I guess more official channels, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we won't answer these necessarily in detail on AMAs. You'll see them in reports coming out. But all of that to be said, we have exceeded our expectations with the exchanges that we're currently listed on, and we won't even have to sell. The plan was to never sell 7 billion. There's a far less quantity of tokens out in the market right now for sale, and we have no doubt that we will raise what we need to for moving forward. So was I vague enough on that one, gents?
Yeah, there's a regulatory and fiduciary responsibility that we have as a business. That means we will be following market practice in terms of updating the market as to where we're at in that process on a semi-annual basis moving forward. And that's just to ensure that we're not saying things that are outside of the realms of regulatory approval in places and spaces like this. So particularly for early investors, that we'll be doing for our early investors and angel investors, we'll be doing more regular monthly updates, but specifically directly to them, because obviously they've put that investment and have earned that right. But we'll for the overall kind of general position of where we're at, we'll be doing that every 6 months.
One other thing I was going to mention is perhaps like a lot of times people look at the process of IEO or ICO, they look at it as a one event thing, where it could be just like, you ICO and boom, here's the 40 mil, in your wallet. Yay, you're done, right? That's never the case. It's a process. As a matter of fact, when people say, like, how long is your ICO? I think what they meant to ask is, are you going to say, I'm going to list a token for sale over, say, 2 weeks, and then see how much money this project raises? Or there could be a specific goal in mind, like I want to raise, 10 mil. So however long it takes, it's gonna get there. And I think for Kula, we're more on that, second spectrum there. So it's not a 1 day event, but we have no doubt we're going to reach our goal, because it's like, given the interest from even like the OTC stuff, I think we're doing really well there.
Sam, what does OTC mean for
Oh,
those that know?
yeah, over the counter. So people don't have to, investors don't have to buy it via exchange, because if they use cash to USDT to buy it, then it will create market movement. So there's a lot of, imagine you try to put in $10 million worth of order on Kula token, the token price will just move up as you are purchasing it. So that will make it harder and harder for the investor to keep buying. So then a lot of projects would like to do is to say, let me negotiate. If, say, your minimum investment is 1 million, for example, how about we negotiate with you outside of the exchange, and then give you a block of Kula token at the same price, and then say take that 1 million ticket price and then deliver that token to that wallet, to the investor's wallet, without creating the market movement. For Kula, though, we have a strategy for that. So say 1 million as the ticket size, we are considering internally some kind of split between directly from Kula DAO treasury of Kula token to the investor wallet, and a percentage of that being on the open market, just for transparency and for the price action type of support that we can give to the investors as like public token buyers, like a self-confidence type of thing. So that's like in conversations, and we have quite a few interested parties approaching us. Another thing I will make a mention on even the over-the-counter deal is we will not be selling like fully liquid, unlocked token from day one at $1 million ticket size, because that would just, all it is creating sell pressure, right, for ourselves. So those tokens will still have a lock period and a vesting schedule associated with them. So just stay assured, like rest assured that even when we do these over-the-counter deals, we're not going to create some sort of negative pressure for already, like for our Kula community and the existing Kula token buyer.
Yeah, I think it's really important, Sam, what you talked about. I know I've been a part of a lot of token launches as a retail investor. And so when the project talks about an OTC sale, right, the community gets excited, but you don't see anything in the chart,
Yeah.
right? You don't see anything reflected in the chart. And so when we talk about taking a certain percentage, whether that's 10% or 12% of that OTC sale, and injecting it into the market so that our retail investors benefit from that, they get to see it live action, it actually does impact the chart. I think it's really important. This is not just a selfish move for Kula. We're here to benefit everybody, even our small retail investors. So yeah, we want everybody to get excited about an OTC sale.
Which, talking about updates, Mike, and I think we forgot to mention a couple of things we're working on. Like, for example, what Micah just mentioned, you talk about, because we want to make sure the smaller investors basically don't get screwed over by the bigger deals taking place behind the scenes. We are allocating percentage to the open market transaction. That is something I think fairly unique to Kula, and it's based on this value system where we want to create value for smaller investors. We want to be inclusive. We want to have this transparency. And given our value set, we are starting to develop an investment framework and thesis. Not every project coming to Kula will get money, right? And what is the point of it? Like, so they come to us And the first question we ask is, what is the impact measure that you guys are using? What is the impact we will have on the planet by investing in you guys? And then given the impact, what's the return we're going to get then? But not the other way around. So there, for the community, you guys will be seeing more and more of these set of guidelines, theses coming out and make it public to everybody based off of the value that we hold dear.
That's good. There's a great question here. We've traveled loads, and well, we've had a lot of conferences and meetings in the last even week or two. I would love to know what we all think of this question, but how do you see the words RWA and tokenized assets evolve day after day at big events, meetings, government side of things, etc.?
RWA, huh? Real world asset. And I think when it came out, it was really intended to have the actual asset, and then it went to equity, bonds, and real estate, which is like somewhat of a lower hanging fruit, if you will, right? Because those instruments are already kind of transparent. Liquidity is already there. Not much of a slippage, on bond instrument. They're gonna let the yield curve go crazy if you create all kinds of slippage there. So like I think, then like, I think they're blockchain coming out with another word for it, like off-chain asset, which makes sense, right? The stuff is off-chain, so you want to bring it on-chain. So that's more of a technical viewpoint. For Kula, we focus on the set of assets that are natural resource based, like actually real world asset. And I think we've been quite successful at it. One is we get to capture the potential upside. Two is we get to provide liquidity to early investors who are never able to capture their capital appreciation until maybe even years later. So yeah, the term is changing and evolving. Another term I want to bring up now is the term DAO, right? Like we want to wrap the DAO structure around stuff. I think, Chris, you've mentioned, like, was it last year we got together? We should come up with a different word for this because every time we say DAO, we keep saying we disagree with it, but we never provided a solution. So I'm thinking like the word like deep blockchain governance or something like that might be quite interesting to replace the word DAO. It's really about governance. It's not about how decentralized or how autonomous, it is, because that's such a scaling problem. So, maybe we'll come up with a new word too for RWA, but I don't want to like, dilute the industry's vocabulary dictionary thing and make it confusing for everybody. We are like, if you look at it, we're definitely part of RWA, but we have a specific focus.
Yeah, I mean, I remember an event that I attended in 2022, as we were just starting this, and at this point, the phrase RWA was already saturated in the market. I mean, it was like NFTs of 2021 and 2020. And so every time anybody would ask me what my project was, I said, "Oh, we're, real world project." And you'd almost watch their eyes roll of like, another one. So instead of saying, well, I'm tokenizing real world assets, I started about halfway through the convention. I started telling people that we tokenize governance, and there was an interest. There's a level of interest there. Going, okay, that's different. That's a new phrase I haven't heard yet. And ever since then, it was not me that coined that. Honestly, I think it was probably either Chris or Sam. I'll give them the credit. I stole it. But ever since then, we have steered away from saying that we're tokenizing assets because of the market saturation of that phrase. Everybody's tried it, and frankly, now that we've been going to these conventions and spaces over the last couple of years, I've met people on RWA projects or tokenization projects, and now twice this year, I met somebody in February, and now at the Digital Commonwealth, and said, yeah, we've been doing this for about a year and a half now, and we're struggling. We're coming up against obstacles, and we can't quite figure out X. And in my head, I'm going, yeah, because you have no governance. There's no governance around your project. And so you can't just fractionalize assets and sell tokens. Um, in fact, we just had the Kentucky Derby here in the United States, and there's a token fractionalized ownership over a racehorse. Then what happens when that racehorse dies? All of these things is like, yeah, there's so many problems in this RWA space, and governance is the solution. We have a robust governance solution, and I think more and more projects are going to realize that. I'd either white label it or, frankly, try to steal it.
Yeah, I remember that conversation now, Micah, because we were like debating internally, what is it that we're tokenizing? Right? Like, oh, we put the asset on chain, NFT, but we don't really wrap a bunch of ERC20 around it and start selling it because what does that do? Like what do people get out of that token? And then we start talking about actually what we tokenize is governance. You're right. So even DAO, right? That's what it is, isn't it? It's tokenized governance.
Yep.
It's just that, we should just, I think deep blockchain governance is like a cool word.
Yeah.
I think we've continued this conversation for a few years, and I think the market, as Micah, you said, is so saturated in this space, and quite frankly, so unregulated, and that's cause for concern, I think, in terms of the longevity of that acronym and where it leads, right? I think the next down cycle of the crypto cycles that are there, or whenever there's an economic pullback in a way that is substantive, will expose RWA projects' lack of liquidity, and that concerns me for the overall market conditions as well. And I think we've done some really nuanced thinking, and I think in this next 6 months, it's time for us to start to put out clear position papers of what we're thinking actually on all these things. Deep blockchain governance, I love it. I think it's a great way of actually accurately explaining what we're about and what we do, and finding a new way to frame what we do within the RWA space. Because, as Sam said, it really is. You can't just change a market narrative because you're a bit different, because you just the other side of that coin is obscurity and no one's listening. But I think we've got a place to actually speak to this issue, because there are some fundamental flaws in the RWA narrative that no one talks about from the front of these stages, and that's concerning because everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. The bottom line is we've worked really hard to find a regulatory and legal framework, and really a shout out to our compliance officer Paul Jackson in that space, in helping us build out a very robust group structure that allows us to silo and protect those assets legally, which is really critical, right? Because what no one talks about is, at the end of the day, somebody still owns the underlying asset. A government somewhere wants its tax cut, so there's a legal entity that will own that asset, and someone owns it, so you can tokenize it all day long. But who actually is in control is the question, which then comes back to the governance question that Micah's also brought up. So all around, I think we've both built and from time to time come across posts on LinkedIn or things on, in the industry, where it's like, yeah, we've done that. It's really great you're saying that, but we did that 6 to 12 months ago. And that's not to be egotistical or big-headed that we're, the best. We've still got a lot to learn, and we will keep learning. But to this point, we've actually paid a heavy price to this point to get where we've got to. And again, it's a wonderful moment to be in a place where we're building on solid foundations, and that only bodes well for the future as we keep growing.
Maybe one other thing I wanted to talk about too is like when other projects offer just fractional ownership. Now, to attract buyers into those fractionalized asset that's being tokenized or whatever, a block, put it on chain or whatever it is that you do to it, to attract these folks, you have to offer something in return. And now these projects, everybody's tokenizing something, then they have to offer yield, right? Which is in the form of staking in the blockchain crypto space. Well, then all of a sudden, what happened is you are putting a negative pressure on yourself as a project to keep providing that type of yield. And we've seen that over and over again for the past few cycles, right? The yields start to compete against one another. You start with like 3% of like, say, prime, and then go up to 6. Oh, prime has changed. Then it's like 8% prime plus, right? And then it's like, oh, wait a second, this other guy's offering 10. We're gonna offer like 20 now. Da, da, da. So then it turned into this Ponzi scheme, right? Because you have to attract new capital to pay out the old capital that you owe and the yield that you owe. So like, oh, and then you got to, on top of that, create capital appreciation. Like, no wonder everybody just the whole space looks like some huge Ponzi scheme, and everybody go for the newcomers. And for Kula, we don't offer yield. I mean, there's no way we can guarantee we're going to hold that yield forever. What if something happened to the asset? I mean, even though we're super confident of the asset that's on chain already and the community that we already built, but it doesn't make sense to put the project under negative pressure. So that might be something like that's also different. And I think in consensus, I'm sure Mike and I will, our minds just drift upon these things, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay, good. For each of you guys, what is one moment or one connection that has been tremendously helpful in your role in Kula? Boy. And helpful in my role.
I'll wait for your example first. I'm not quite sure
Yeah, I'm
what
trying to
that.
think what's been helpful in my trying to think exactly how to answer that. Really, a lot of my role has been fundraising and building the team inside of Kula. Could be some of my biggest roles. And then traveling and engaging with government officials, mainly in Nepal for me. And in all of that, whether it's meeting and frankly educating investors about what we're doing, onboarding employees and trying to educate them about what we're building, and then sitting with government officials. I have one. I've learned the correct way to appeal to my audience, whatever audience I'm speaking to educate them about Kula. And my favorite thing is when that aha moment of whoever I'm speaking to just gets it, understands Kula, gets the vision, catches the heart of Kula. That has been dynamic to my role. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me excited about meeting with hundreds and hundreds of investors, only to onboard, I don't know, 5% of them. But really, that's what really benefited me in my role, is that ability to get somebody to that aha moment where they just catch the understanding the project, but more than that, catch the heart of the project.
Yeah, I've got many answers, so I mean, I want to say you guys, because you guys have been a fantastic team to work with. The three of us together, I think, has been remarkable, and we wouldn't be here had we not been supporting each other so well for the last couple of years, as we've been building for 3 years since we've been building this. But specifically to my role, I'm going back to talk about Paul again, just because I think last year we were working really hard on paperwork for a regulator, and I'd kind of reached my limit, honestly, in terms of what I understood, and the I would have pressed through and learned and got there, but it would have taken an extra 6 months, which we didn't have. And it was just honestly at that point in the process wonderful to have someone that had experience and understood what was trying to be achieved come in and just give that professional sounding board, and also just the support work, and then evolve that as well. So we were able to really lean into his experience and grow out a much more regulatorily compliant overall process. So I think that's just great. And I think We've also had work from another lady working out of Paris on legal work with us called Eleanor as well. And I think just these different skill sets and capacities that are attracted to the vision of the project and what we're trying to do and trying to achieve. And as founders, we don't have those skill sets, right? It's not when kind of become a jack of all trades in the process of starting something like this. But then when you find really great people with good charisma but incredible competence in their own specific niche, it just makes working towards those ends really great, right? Because you're actually achieving what you need to, and you have a credibility and a legitimacy to the market as well. So that's been fantastic, I think, and just really appreciate working with those guys as part of this team.
Uh, I don't know if this is like one of those questions that's like leads you to those Oscar moments where you go, I really appreciate the team, my family, my wife, my children, stuff like that. But it's yes, that's true. Uh, but I think it's the ability to learn how to tell stories, you know. I think that's super important. Like I'm pretty technical, not super like technical as computer sciencey, but like kind of technical on like a lot of technical things. And I've noticed a few times try to explain Kula to people, and they're just like, "What?" And I was lucky enough to have folks stepping in. Many different continents, I have these help. It's kind of funny, like, people in the middle, like just say, like, "Can I just translate for you?" So I think it then I start to learn like, oh, maybe I should speak a different language to different audience. But stories always work. Like that's a part of learning. So I really appreciate the folks that step up to help translate many of these conversations from English to English. But it's been really good. How soon do you anticipate expansion to US-based exchange? The ball is in their court, so we have to just wait. But we'll keep pushing. I mean, exchanges are busy, We try to meet up with them in Token. Didn't happen, but we were invited to a party, so it's great. But I think like later on, like, you know, um, we'll keep pushing on all channels.
Yeah. And we also have a couple of fairly strong pieces of news coming through in the next window of time here that are critical to that conversation. So we're working just to complete that work, and then once we've got those things locked, we can go back to those exchanges with the information actually and the news that they're waiting for as well. So it's in process and moving ahead. Well, I would say, and very positive. We are working very hard at it, and yeah, we're looking forward to announcing when we land that milestone. Would you welcome white label solutions from other existing or launch projects? So I think that's a good one for you to answer because you've
Yeah.
got 7 or 8 projects on the go already in this space.
Yeah, we actually registered a company in Singapore uh, that is up for Kula services. Um, we want to put what we have learned, um, like offer what we learned to other projects and our legal and jurisdiction infrastructure to the potential projects that would like to go through a token listing process with us. We have obviously worked with a bunch of exchanges, market makers, legal teams, jurisdiction, areas. We understand the token listing process, not like just like here's a token, we list it, but from the ground up, like, we have this asset, what do we do? From strategy side of point of view, from capitalization point of view, all the way to token listing and be able to market and be able to put it on both decentralized and centralized exchanges and support it. So we want to offer that business process as a service to the world. Be selective about the projects we take on still. Got to have value alignment and everything up front. And then secondly is to see how we can work with them. During the I want to say downtime of Kula DAO build, we opened the door for just a week, and we had like 10, 11 projects coming to us trying to utilize our white labeling service already. And we had to quickly shut the door because Kula DAO got busy. We got a bunch of like progress from on that front. And now I think we're in a position to open that up again. So still working on it, but yes, we are open to that opportunity. If you're interested, contact us from our website, hello at, and then hello at coolitdout.io, or just contact any of our social channel. We'll be happy to speak with you on that.
We had a question here on X community, which I'll answer the first half and then I'll pass to you for the second half, Micah. But just asking about updates on your projects and then specifically on Nepal. I think within about 48 hours of launch, we had an assessment professional for our project in Zambia contracted and on the ground by that weekend, doing an assessment of that project for the next phase of its development and just getting all of the paperwork that we needed to see to review it for the next stage of that evolution. So we'll be looking at that report that should be coming in this next week for what we do next with it. We've got another professional on the timber project in Malaysia heading out in the next couple of weeks, which has been great. We've been working for about 3 months to find the right and identify the right individual to do that, and have a gentleman that actually lived in the areas, worked in the industry, and knows the players and the political backdrop of that industry on that island in that part of Malaysia as well. So it's been a good hunt, but we've got the right person, so they'll be heading out to do an assessment on the valuation piece of work and just assessing the quality of the timber and underscoring the DD of the actual value chain. So from product out to the market, making sure that each step is kind of watertight. So those two projects are really in a good place at the moment in terms of just the assessment and the overview. And again, we're doing the due diligence, so it doesn't mean that we'll be pursuing it further right now. We don't know, but we're able to quickly get those things activated after launch based on what we could see from launch. So that's super encouraging. And then Micah's been working with Nepal for the last year very directly, and any updates on that, Micah, you can share.
Yeah, as far as updates go, we have a great partner on the ground with Big Land Hydro that not only do we already have hydro licenses with, but he has also informed us that the opportunity for more, it's a ripe time for the opportunity for to gather more licenses. So there are also 2 individuals that I'm in conversation with that actually have hydropower up and running. They're operational right now. And so really looking for all kinds of opportunities in hydro for sure, but Nepal really has opportunities elsewhere as well in other sectors, small business, educational sectors. And so we'll continue there. There is rumor of a shift in the government coming up here soon. But like we always say, I've made great friends with both parties that kind of change power regularly. So it doesn't matter who's in the prime minister's seat. We have great relationships with both parties. So yeah, looking forward to probably heading back there in the next couple months and re-engaging with them on the ground. But constant communication. I mean, I wake up to at least 8 or 10 messages from Nepal, from different individuals, many of which are high level of the government. So yeah, they are excited about Kula. We're excited about that country, but really this launch is what really gets us moving towards building up the infrastructure we need in Nepal.
There is one more project under DD, Chris, you might have missed, the one in Poland. They sent a bunch of document to us, which got translated, So now we're looking into that renewable energy with a huge carbon, savings there. So that's another one that's like, there's many others, but I think that's the three we could mention along with Nepal.
We're actually out of questions. There's two more. Sorry. There's one more. One more just came in. How do you source the professionals you send into the field to check out these new projects? I very quickly, we are not miners, we are not timber specialists, we are not hydroelectric specialists. We're actually providing that blockchain ecosystem for good governance over projects that impact communities. So we do a lot of work then to get the right professionals that do know their industry to then consult with us and help us understand what is the scope of a project, whether it's a solid investment or not, what are the risks, doing the risk assessment and analysis. I think we've got some fairly good bench depth within the team for the oversight of the political context in which we're working in the countries we go to, which is critical. But again, we will work really hard to source those professionals. So as an example, in Malaysia, we tendered the piece of work out to the market, had 3 or 4 people apply for the assessment that we've requested, and then went through that process with them, interviewing and actually understanding with them what they can and can't do, and finally selected the individual that we've chosen based on experience, CV, and referrals, and just understanding of that industry's depth. And with that particular individual, the added bonus was having worked there, knowing some of the local language and the actual players on the market is just also an added bonus. So we work really hard. So we've got a lady that works with us in vetting all of any mining operations, and we'll be doing the same, and we've already been sourcing and looking at that for the Nepal project and elsewhere. But we're pretty consistent about that, because again, we've got to be watertight in the DD process to understand that we've vetted everything that we possibly can, and we've learned how to do that. We didn't know how to do that 3 years ago. We've learned in some ways the hard way, but we have learned, and make sure that we've got a really kind of important, a well vetted kind of DD process in place now. I just want to. There's been a couple of questions asked that we haven't answered, and if you've asked a question and not got an answer to it, I would just really encourage you to reach out on hello@kuladao.io, and we'll definitely, or from our website, and we'll definitely follow up with you directly on those questions. And there's some questions we can't answer in this forum, and that's just one of the restraints we have to do in this public space, but we're really happy to answer them elsewhere if you want to reach out to us directly.
And with that, perfect timing, because we are out of questions. But thanks again, everybody, whether it's early in the morning or late at night, for joining our first AMA after launch. Continue following us on social medias. Tell your friends and family about Kula, and just thanks for being a part of the community. We appreciate our community and our followers, and look forward to the next few months. June is our next AMA, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks so much.